Oakland A's UK. Oakland A's UK. The Oakland A's UK. The Oakland A's UK.
Hello and welcome to Oakland A's UK. I'm Matt Smith. It's the 31st of December, so a perfect day to look back at 2019. From an A's UK point of view, it's been a fantastic year. We've had lots of new followers on all of our different social media accounts, including here on YouTube. Hannah and Dom went out to Tokyo and had a great time out there in Japan, right at the start of the season. And of course, we had our big first ever A's UK meetup ahead of the MLB London series back in June. So let's take a look back at 2019. I've picked out some of my favourite players from the year, also a few duds too, and some of my favourite moments. So see what you think. Got any other good ideas? Stick them in the comments below. Now we're going to start with 5 good players. A few honourable mentions should go to Chris Bassett and Brett Anderson out of the rotation, Yusmeiro Petit, sterling work out of the bullpen, and Ramon Laureano for doing things that only Ramon can do. If we're starting with good A's players, then there's nowhere else we can look but marvellous Marcus Semien. He played in all 162 games and was a joy to watch throughout the season. He hit 33 home runs, his batting overall was tremendous, and of course he adds that with his great shortstop glove that he's developed so hard over the past few seasons. So it was good to see him getting some national recognition, finishing 3rd in the AL MVP award stakes. The only disappointment, of course, is that 2020 is going to be his final year under contract with the A's. And we all know what the A's are like. The likelihood of him staying seems pretty remote. So let's enjoy him for now and hope he hasn't been traded in between me recording and publishing this video. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. Not my words, the words of many an annoying Australian sports fan. But in the case of Liam Hendriks, we can all join in because in 2019, Hendo was a hero for the A's. He stepped up when we really needed him to, and we'd seen flashes of his potential in previous years, but nothing like this. He really stepped forward. He struck out 37% of the hitters he faced and just got that national recognition that he deserved. Unfortunately, just like Marcus Semien, he's also another player who is currently out of contract at the end of 2020. Same old way it goes, I suppose. Can he flip it? You bet he can. Mark Canha had a tremendous year for the A's in 2019. He'd had a couple of injury hit years before 2018, and then last year he did come back, not quite to the level you'd like him to be, but he was solid enough. But this year he really took a step forward, hitting 26 home runs, on base percentage just a hair under 400. Brilliant showing by him. He also filled in a bit in centre field to cover for Ramon Laureano when he was injured, so fantastic year for Mark Canha. He's back flipping the season all season long when Mark's in town. Next man up is Matt Olson. Now the season couldn't have started in a more disappointing way. We went to Tokyo, lost 2 games to the Mariners, and we lost Matt Olson, a hamate bone injury, which was really depressing because not only did it mean he was out until the 7th of May, but there was a real concern there that players who have hand injuries or wrist injuries, you often find that even if they can come back and play, the power often isn't there for several months, if not a whole season. Well, that isn't how it turned out for Oli. He was tremendous. He raked more than an over-enthusiastic Gardner. 36 home runs in 126 games. Surely would have been a 40 home run season if he'd have been able to play the majority of the games. Fantastic seeing that lefty power stroke. Come on, Oli, doing a great job. And number 5 is first half Frankie Montas. Now we all know how the season went. 15 starts and then disaster with the drug suspension. But before that, he was absolutely fantastic. He was using that split finger about 18% of the time, ditched the little used changeup and was absolutely carving up major league lineups. And when you look at his numbers, even though he only made 16 starts over the season, he still worked out as our 2nd most productive pitcher behind Liam Hendriks when you look at things like wins above replacement. So just goes to show what he could do in a full season. He did come back right at the end of the season and pitched a good game against the Angels, 6+ innings there. So hopefully he'll use the frustration of the drug suspension this year to really fuel him for next year. And you know what? I wouldn't be at all surprised if Frankie is a top 25 pitcher across the majors next season. Unfortunately, where there is good, there also has to be bad. And here are three guys who didn't really live up to expectations. First off, Marco Estrada. So what are the numbers there? $4 million, 5 starts, 3 of them absolute stinkers. Not good value for money, really, was it? We knew it was a gamble when we signed him. That's why we got him on a 1-year, $4 million contract. But yeah, it didn't work out at all. Started the season being hit around Tokyo Dome by the Seattle Mariners. He had a couple of okay starts after that, but then he gave up 6 earned runs against Baltimore, bad news right away. Then he faced the Astros, you knew how that was going to go, 7 earned runs in 3 innings, and that was your lot. Went down on the injured list with a back injury, did pitch a bit in the minor leagues, but never came up to the team, and that's your lot. So yeah, $4 million, thanks very much, Marco. Next up, it has to be Blake Trinan, unfortunately. He was never going to match his historic 2018 season, but boy, this was a collapse and a half, wasn't it? 2019, everything went south for Blake. He really struggled to control his pitches. His velocity was still there, but he was walking a lot of batters. I think it was about 14%. And the result of that was he wasn't getting the ball in the zone, so people could lay off his slider. And if you're falling into hitters' counts, that's when you get hit. Unfortunately, Blake Trinan got hit for 9 home runs in about 58 innings. And yeah, the A's ended up having to part ways. Now, he's re-signed with the Dodgers, and you wouldn't be at all surprised if he has a great season with them because the stuff is still there. It's just a real shame how his A's career came to an end. And finally, another A's great who unfortunately fell below expectations. God, we were all so excited when Chris Davis signed a contract extension with the A's, the sort of thing the A's never do. New 2-year contract to cover 2020 and 2021. However, 2019, Lensu went down the pan. That injury at PNC Park back in May, and he never really looked right after Len. Not only did he not keep up his record of hitting 247, but he lost his record of hitting 40 home runs in a season. He did it 3 consecutive years, but he only hit 23 in 2019. Now, I've looked at Chris's season in more depth on my blog at baseballgb.co.uk. So if you want to have a read of that, click the link in the description below. So we move on to great moments from the season, and where else can we start on the 7th of May, Mike Fiers pitching a no-hitter. Came on the back of a pretty depressing road trip, and we got back to the Coliseum really needing a boost, and boy did Mike give us one of those. We had the lighting issues before the game, and that played into our hands in the UK because the game was still going on at about 7 o'clock in the morning our time. I was on a train in the East Anglian countryside and no Wi-Fi on the train. I was desperately hoping for updates coming through on my phone. First out in the 9th inning, second out in the 9th inning. Finally the news came through, he'd done it. And get this, became only the 35th pitcher in the whole of Major League Baseball history to pitch 2 or more no-hitters. That's some very elite company Mike Fiers got himself into. So great moment and a great piece of excitement against the Reds. It's also worth remembering the contribution that Jerickson Profile made to the game. Now, we know he's been traded to the Padres, and we could look at his 1 year with the A's as a season of kind of nothingness, really, but made a big contribution here. He went 2 for 3 at the plate, batting in both of the A's 2 runs, one of which coming on a solo home run. And he also made a tremendous diving play in the 6th inning to keep the no-hitter alive. So, yes, it was a disappointing year for Profile, but let's remember his A's career for the work he did in helping Mike Fiers get that little piece of history. Next up is another player who is no longer with the A's. Josh Phegley hasn't been tendered a contract for 2020, so it looks like he's going to be on his way. But we can always remember him for the 3rd of May 2019. Let's call it Josh Phegley Day. We were playing in Pittsburgh against the Pirates, and Josh went 4 for 5, hitting 8 RBI, including a 9th inning home run. It was a memorable day for Phegley, a player who'd been with the A's for 5 seasons, never really a star or anything quite like that, but he'd always been a dependable guy, and to see him shining in that way was fantastic. There was that little period in May, wasn't there, where Josh Phegley looked like God. Unfortunately, it turned out it was just dog spelled backwards. But hey, we'll always have the 3rd of May 2019 Josh. Finally, we'll look at my favourite series from the season. There were a few sweeps I could have chosen, but I've gone for a 3-1 series win against the Astros in September, the 9th to the 12th to be precise. Now, we went into the series in Minute Maid Park, having the Astros having marmalised us basically for most of the rest of the season. So we wanted to lay down a marker, and first game was an absolute disaster. Mike Fiers was smashed for 9 runs in a little over 1 inning. We were 11-0 down after 2 innings and ended up losing it 15-0. Not a good start. But then in game 2, back came the A's. We won it 21-7. Wade Miley was hit for 7 runs by getting only 1 out. We kind of killed him with singles in that one. And there were 2 home runs for Matt Olson, 2 home runs for Sean Murphy. Just a really great result for the A's coming back from that big loss in game 1. Then game 3 went the A's way 5-3, all down to a big 4-run 6th inning, including yet another home run by Sean Murphy. And it was another young guy who contributed too. Jesus Lozado came out for the pen, pitched 3 really good innings in relief, gave up just the 1 hit, a solo home run to Martin Maldonado, but a 5-3 victory, and it set up a potential Series 3-1 win the next day. The only problem with that is that Justin Verlander was on the mound, and that's always going to be a tough ask. He struck out 11 along the way, but the A's were able to grind out 3 runs, and that's all we needed to win it 3-2. Homer Bailey pitched well in 5 1/3 innings, and then 5 relievers got together to finish the job. So there it was, lost the first game 15-0, but came back against the Astros to win the series 3-1. A really landmark series for the A's. Unfortunately, we couldn't then go on and face them in the playoffs. So that's what I made of the A's 2019 season. What were your favourite moments from the year? Let me know in the comments below. 2020 hopefully will be a big year for the A's. Will be a good year for us at A's UK too. We're planning out a potential East Coast road trip in New York, Washington and Boston in August. So keep an eye on our Twitter account for details on that. We're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at Oakland A UK, and of course here on YouTube. So like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Happy New Year to you all, and here's to a successful 2020 for A's UK, and of course more importantly Oakland A's on the field.
Yeah, we're the Oakland A.